I'm not going to call a roll book. I would like to Majin Má Gwaibh Galair agus tá fáilte rih gach duine. Welcome to everybody, both online and in this room here. My name is Mairéad Phelan. I'm head of the National Building Control and Market Surveillance Office. And we have a very good lineup of speakers here today. We're talking about modern methods of construction. And we have our speakers include speakers from government, from building control, from industry, assigned certifiers, designers, and builders. And it's all together that we will get this right. And for the fire doors to my right and to my left and to your rear, in the event of fire, an orderly Lena, please use and exit via the fire doors. We have Slido, so on your pack there you will see a QR code. Link into the QR code and ask any questions. You can ask them. We'll have questions and answer session when we finish this session here. And as I said, we have a very good lineup of speakers. What we do in the National Building Control and Market Surveillance Office, we're a shared service of 31 local authorities, and the 31 local authorities pay us to provide a standardised service across the sector. We are mainly concerned with national building control, delivering building control, promoting a culture of compliance with the building regulations, promoting culture of compliance with the construction products regulations, for which we are a market surveillance authority and a competent national authority. And for every market surveillance building control officer county, one by each, we have a pilot inspection collection sample pack that you're not to go away with today without. And that's for collecting samples from aggregates, and you have all of the information that you need in that pack. So we will be taking names, and don't forget to go away without it. We also manage the building control management system, and the building control management system is the preferred means of administration of building control in Ireland. And it's not just an IT system, it is the system that we collect your drawings, your design, your specifications to demonstrate how you're going to comply with the requirements of the building regulations, Part A to Part M. And now, to put this day in context, lest you forget, we must comply with the requirements of the building regulations, Part A to Part M, and the basic requirements for construction works, and that's agreed across Europe, that construction as a whole and in their separate parts must be fit for their intended use, taking into account persons involved throughout the life cycle of the works. Subject to normal maintenance, construction works must satisfy the basic works requirements for construction works for an economically reasonable working life, and that's 60 years. So mechanical resistance and stability must conform with that, fire safety, environment, hygiene, safety and accessible in use, protection against noise, heat retention, sustainable use of materials. So remember that as we go through each one of the presentations today. And all methods of construction are welcome. So we don't mind what you build it with, you must conform to these rules and regulations for an economically feasible working life. And I'm going to remind you again about Part D of the building regulations. Proper materials which are fit for purpose in the circumstances and the conditions which they are to be used. So the circumstances and conditions here in Athlone on a lovely sunny day could be quite different than the circumstances and conditions in West Cork on the same sunny day, where you could have wind, rain and mist blowing in over the Atlantic. All the construction products must bear CE marking, comply with the construction products regulations, have a declaration of performance, safety information in use, and if they don't come within the harmonised standard, you must demonstrate compliance via either independent certification, and you'll hear more about that today, tests and calculations, or you can show us by performance in use. So where alternative use methods of compliance are being considered, you have a very good information document on the department's website, and consult with your building control authority. There's 31 building control authorities, we're there to help, and you have the National Building Control Office. We need compliant buildings, 60 years. And we don't mind if you have an agreement certificate, but the agreement certificate must say 60 years, and I don't want to be seeing 15 years for this and 30 years for that and 60. It must all be 60 years. And whatever you're connecting your construction parts with, that connection must be 60 years as well. So nothing less. Now, the other thing that you need to remember, modern methods of construction, very good. What we need to see in the built, finished product should be the very same quality as it leaves the factory. So it shouldn't be damaged along the road during transport. It must be maintained and covered and protected while it's on site. You must schedule your deliveries if that's what's necessary, or go build a shed. They can do it in the ploughing match, they can do it in all these agricultural shows. Build a temporary shed and store it in it until you're going to put it into your construction. Temporary site storage. Think about it, how you're going to use your materials. 60 years, agreement certificate, 60 years. Why? What do we want? We want proper materials, we want proper design, we want proper workmanship, we want proper materials fit for use. That's the rules, that's the law. Why? Because we're putting people in our buildings, and it's the health and safety and welfare of people in or about the buildings. How we do it? We need proper planning in advance of construction. Clear quality standards defined, rigorous inspection procedures. Very important, the most important way. How do you stop speeding? Put the guards on the road, inspect. Training competent people. We need competent people. We need to be continuously monitoring and improving our processes to ensure that we have consistent quality, proper buildings fit for purpose. Now, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Ronan. And Ronan Glynn is a registered architect. He's a senior executive professional in our office in the National Building Control and Market Surveillance Office. He's head of the training, education and training pillar and the compliance support pillar. And prior to his role, he was in the architects department in Dublin City Council and spent 15 years on Ballymun regeneration. He is very familiar with standard construction details, modern methods of construction, so I'm happy to introduce Ronan to take this. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. So why are we here? We're here from Modern Methods of Construction. So there's a good publication from the department on the introductory guide to modern methods of construction. It talks about the benefits, faster delivery in site, higher quality homes, increasing sustainability, more affordability, and more diversity in the workforce. So that's why we're looking at modern methods of construction, going away from the standard or traditional construction. So in that MMC guidance, there's 7 different types of MMC looked at. We, in the National Building Control Office, but the department, are looking at how we integrate those into the online assessment. And we selected the ones that have structural performance in them. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 5 and 7. 4 and 7. So we'll go through those. So in the original online assessment, as it is at the moment, we, as a creator of the notice, you select the type of construction, and there's a list of materials that you can select from, and it's an open list. You can select as many materials as you want within one building, and that was slightly confusing for building control officers, as you might have a building which would have several different types of materials, weren't sure which was the main construction material, and they would have to investigate that as for their risk assessment. And then the second question that was there was the load-bearing structures that arrived prefabricated, i.e. 3D modular, for instance. So the question wasn't well defined and could lead to errors because people might assume that what they were bringing to site was prefabricated. It may not be the main material used for the construction, so it led to some confusion there. So with the department, we looked at how we would resolve that issue. So the resolution was that we changed into two new questions. The first question would be the main method of construction, and there'll be a selection available. Standard construction, which is non-MMC, or traditional construction as some people call it. We have MMC category 1, which is 3D volumetric. We have MMC 2, which is 2D panelized. You have MMC 3, which is the non-systemized, and then you have MMC 4, additive manufacture, and MMC 7, which is site process, which is improvement of labour on site. And then from that, we whittle down a 15 most common materials plus another for the structural elements. So how that would work in practice would be that you would select what is the main method of construction as the first question, and then the second question would be limited to the main, what are the main materials for the structural elements. So in practice, what happens is you have two selections. So the first selection, you select MMC category 1, and then the second material list is pre-populated with timber frame, mass engineered timber, precast concrete, structural steel, light gauge steel. So they will be the common materials used in MMC 1, for instance. If you go into standard construction, you would have the suite of masonry, brick, block, stone, on-site frame construction, timber frame construction, on-site structural steel, reinforced concrete, steel and concrete hybrid or other. And when you look at the main construction, there is a link to a resource page that shows you what the different types of MMC mean in sort of the broad terms. So the first one is traditional, as we understand it, cavity walls, reinforced concrete, where you have on-site processes where you're building it with materials brought to site and you're constructing the dwelling or the building on site using those traditional methods of construction. You have MMC 1, which is 3D volumetric, where you have structural elements which are basically stacked on top of each other, bolted together, and they form the building. And you have MMC type 2, which is the panelized system. So you might have on the top one is a panel which has all the materials from internal finish to external finish, and they are bolted together and they form the structural integrity for the building. And then the second one down is just a steel frame which would arrive to site, and then we'll have the finishes, insulation, etc. added to it, but they're both 2D structural. Then you have system 3, which is non-systematic framing. So this would be glulam beams, steel beams, etc., which are prefabricated off-site and brought to site assembled. So precast concrete would be another version of that, where you have precast beams and columns. Then you have the additive site process, which Conor will talk about later on, is where it's basically a 3D concrete printer, which goes around the footprint of the building and basically prints out the footprint of the building using a special type of concrete. And then you have MMC 7, which is improvements to site works, which in general are only as ICF in this country, where it is insulated concrete formwork, which is if concrete poured, they build the lift of the polystyrene and plastic formers. It's poured in with concrete with the required reinforcement, and that forms your building. So there are the types of MMC that we are looking at, and plus standard construction under this selection. So the other selection is other, so you can still select other, and if you selected other, a free box, text box will appear and allow you, the notice creator, to enter a concise description of the proposed material. So in this case, it's insulated structural aluminium panels, which aren't part of the original suite of materials that we looked at. So again, the changes will also be on the front end. So you will see an old notice, you will still see the old form of construction, and a new notice it will change to be represent the MMC. It's not retrospective, it only works from the date it's being applied, which will probably be later this month. And on the building control side, if you look at a legacy project, it will still show the old materials. On the left-hand side, you see the two materials are shown there. So it has, well, it's failing me, but it shows you what the materials are there. And then on the right-hand side, it shows you the new MMC type 1, and then it shows you the type of material, which is timber frame. So just a quick spin through the different types of construction we talk about. Standard construction, non-MMC, generally mason construction, as described in TGGs for non-complex buildings. So most of the TGGs would refer to masonry construction, and the details will complement that type of building type. So for compliance, you'd be checking if the building details are in accordance with TGGs. Obviously, you check if materials are in accordance with Part D, as Mairéad already mentioned. Check if the material is properly stored. Check if the works are progressing in a workmanlike manner, and check if the details are in accordance with the ACDs. Then MMC 1, 3D volumetric, again, three-dimensional units consisting of floor, walls, and roof panels, which are primary structure of all the building, and made in factories and transported to site. So again, as Mairéad talked about, you're looking at on-site protection, Part D, you're checking if there's an argument insert, you're checking for factory inspection records, the interface with the foundations, Part C, how it's actually being placed on the ground, where is the DPC, that kind of stuff. The sealing between different units, and how the external envelope, the walls, the roof, and the balcony junctions are detailed out. And then we look at 2D panelized, they're flat pack. They're basically 2D panels which arrive on site, they are assembled. Again, you were looking for an argument insert. For timber, you have IS 440, which is the standard. Be checking again for on-site protection, factory inspection records, checking interface with foundations, you know, where the DPC is, where is damp getting through, sealing between units, fire barriers, etc. Checking the envelope for junctions. Systemized, non-systemized primary structure, is there an argument insert, or what is the basis of compliance? Checking for materials, protection on site, factory inspection records. Again, interface with foundations, how are these put together? Again, the external envelope of the building again. Additive manufacture, Conor will go through this a bit more detail, but again, you're looking for what's the base of compliance, what is the protection of materials on site, what's the interface with foundations, how do you install the ancillary items like cavity barriers, fire barriers, etc. And also there might be checks on the dockets for slump tests, concrete cube tests, etc. And then this one was most familiar with everybody is Category 7, which is the site process labor-led reduction. You can tell that was a name thought up by a committee. Includes innovative processes on construction sites such as insulated concrete formwork, which form the primary structure of the building. Again, you're looking for an argument insert based on compliance, checking the horizontal damp proof course must be appropriate for the particular system you're looking at, checking for joints between windows and doors, surrounding cladding systems sufficiently sealed to the manufacturer's instructions. Again, most of these systems have argument inserts. If you're using an argument insert, details they use on site have to be the same details they're used in the argument insert, otherwise the insert is useless. Checking details for construction of any sort of ancillary items like lean-to, flat roofs, abutments, parapets, etc. So, as Mairéad said, compliance, when we're looking at this, we're looking at the whole building. The building on the right there is an MMC in England. You wouldn't know by looking at it was MMC, it looks like a traditional build. So you must know that it's in compliance with all parts of 8M of the building regulations. And for novel approaches that are outside the scope of the TDDs, you must look for compliance for certification, or from argument, or looking for drawings, calculations, and testing that demonstrate compliance. Compliance with the building regs must be considered holistically, not just born to constituent parts. So we get people coming in saying, oh, I've got an argument cert for this particular product, and it only covers A and D, where actually performance tasks under L, C, D, and E. So we have to make sure that it does actually perform all the tasks that it's required to when it's installed. So just noting that everybody involved in design and construction must be required to provide such evidence as necessary to establish the requirements of the building regulations have been complied with. So if you're looking at a novel approach, you may be asked by the Building Control Authority to establish how you are achieving compliance. Again, if you're looking at compliance with MMCs, you're looking at this Argomon search will show you what the durability is, so it tells you 60 years, as Mairéad talked about earlier, and the durability of the render system should be 60 years as well. There's no point having a structure and then putting a render on that only actually lasts for 30 years, so they should be 60 years at the minimum. And then when you're looking at the search, you just check to make sure that the particular details and the requirements are met. So on the left-hand side is the requirement for propping for ICF at 1.8 meter centres and at the corners, and the requirement to put in a rebar at the starting level. Okay, that's my presentation. Thank you very much.